Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. War games of the nuclear kind. The U.S. Strategic Command is kicking off Global Thunder, its annual nuclear command and control exercises. There will be an increase in bomber aircraft flights during this time. The entire Strategic Command of the U.S. Armed Forces is participating, as well as the U.K. Strategic Command states the purpose of GT23 is to enhance nuclear readiness and ensure a safe, secure, and reliable strategic deterrence force. Officials note this is an annual exercise and is not in response to actions by any nation or other actors. That's as China conducted live fire drills around Taiwan over the weekend, following President Tsai's meeting with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in the U.S. And joining us to help explain the significance of the exercises is Captain James Fennell, retired former intelligence director with the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet. What is involved in this? It seems the U.S. isn't going to be firing actual nuclear missiles. So what are they training for?
That is primarily around three types of delivery of weapons. You have air-launched nuclear weapons. You have silos, which have intercontinental ballistic missiles. And then you have our ballistic missile submarines with submerged launch ballistic missiles. Having these exercises ensures our command and control over these forces and ensures the National Command Authority, the President and the Secretary or Chairman of the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense that we can execute when called upon.
Another drill from China is happening, with Taiwan as the apparent target. Beijing said its troops already ended the war game on Monday. But on Tuesday, Beijing kept sending fighter jets to the island. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on the ongoing drills near Taiwan.
Combat readiness patrols. That's what the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is calling its military exercises around Taiwan. Taiwan's defense ministry says over 90 CCP military aircraft flew around the island in missions Monday, and that it spotted 9 Chinese ships and 26 aircraft, including fighter jets, carrying out patrols nearby late Tuesday morning. A Chinese military ship carried out a live fire exercise near the Taiwan Strait. That happened near Pingtan Island, China's closest point to Taiwan. The Chinese regime began exercises on Saturday after Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen returned from the U.S. Tsai met with U.S. representatives, including House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, on her trip. The meeting infuriated the CCP. It warned resolute action and countermeasures would be taken if the meeting happened. The CCP simulated precision attacks and blockades during its exercises. President Tsai criticized Beijing for its response.
China used this to launch military exercises, causing instability in Taiwan and the region. This is not a responsible attitude for a major country in the region.
Japan's defense minister denounced the drills around Taiwan on Tuesday. He called it intimidating training to seize sea and air control around the island. Meanwhile, the U.S. and the Philippines are launching their largest combat drills in decades on Tuesday. The exercises involve live fire drills that include sinking a target vessel in waters across the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait with a coordinated airstrike and artillery bombardment. It's likely to anger the CCP, who warned against the intensifying U.S. military deployment to the region. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
James Fennell, retired former intelligence director with the U.S.'s Pacific Fleet, added another point. Although China is spreading propaganda that Beijing's strength is on the rise, while America's is declining, a key U.S. partner in the region isn't changing sides.
At least as far as the Philippines is concerned, they recognize that their security situation is benefited by the relationship they have with the United States.
Besides China's activities, the U.S. and the Philippines are holding annual joint drills called the Balikatan, or shoulder to shoulder. And part of those exercises are happening near Taiwan. Fennell calls it a subtle signal to Beijing.
There may be the very real possibility that American forces, in a time of hostility, which could threaten the Philippines, American forces could be working from the Philippines. Now,
as for weapons, around 25 U.S. weapons producers plan to visit Taiwan in May. They're set to discuss joint production of drones and ammunition with the island. The group will be led by a retired commander of the U.S. Marines. That's according to what the U.S. Taiwan Business Council's president told Japanese newspaper Nikkei. Ever see these ad inserts in local newspapers? Made to look like news, they boast China as a tourist destination or paint a positive image of Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Like this one published on USA Today, saying Xi's visit to an American school left an indelible mark on its students. These news articles lookalikes are actually ads paid by Beijing's top propaganda outlet, China Daily newspaper. Adding these inserts in U.S. publications is one tool Beijing uses to influence American policy and opinion. And the outlets printing them are some of the most influential in the U.S., like Foreign Policy, Time magazine, and the Los Angeles Times. Since 2016, China has spent over $300 million to influence U.S. public opinion, more than any other country. That's according to Open Secrets, a Washington, D.C.-based nonprofit that tracks lobbying data. China Daily is one of Beijing's top agents carrying out the task in the U.S., spending over $8 million in 2022 to do it. Where did that money go? Here's a breakdown of some of the company's ad expenses last year. Last March, the Beijing outlet paid Foreign Policy over $30,000 for advertisements, and another $30,000 in April and June. For Time magazine, that number jumps to around $100,000 a month from February to May. As for USA Today, a steady sum of over $50,000 paid in January, April, and June. For the Los Angeles Times, the amount reaches the tens of thousands from January to June. The Chinese Communist Party also placed ads in some regional newspapers, such as the Houston Chronicle, the largest daily newspaper in Houston, Texas. In the New England area, the Boston Globe, and on the West Coast, the Seattle Times. Over in Washington, the U.S. is in talks with China. Officials say they're looking to arrange potential visits to Beijing by Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. Here's the statement from the White House.
And when it's appropriate for the two leaders to talk, then that'll happen.
Kirby added that officials are also working to get Secretary of State Antony Blinken on a plane to China. He canceled a visit there earlier this year after the Chinese spy balloon incident. The aircraft floated across the U.S., suspected of surveilling U.S. military bases along its path. Beijing maintains it only collected weather data.
I want to stress, that said, that we are and have been able to maintain lines of communication between our two countries, even throughout all these tensions.
He noted the U.S. would like to see the relationship get onto better footing. Beyond weapons, other factors would also prove vital in case of a hot war. One of them is communication and the infrastructure that supports it. One theory is that in case of a Beijing invasion of Taiwan, China could cut the undersea cables that allow the island to talk to the outside world. In that case, what about bringing Elon Musk's Starlink satellite system into Taiwan as backup? That's the idea two U.S. lawmakers floated on Saturday. They are Congress members Michael McCaul, chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and French Hill. Both of them were members of a U.S. delegation that visited Taiwan last week. They called Starlink one of the constructive takeaways in their talks with Taiwan's President Tsai over the weekend.